Welcome, brave soul. I am the forgotten storyteller. Before we begin, tap that like button if you dare, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're listening from. And if you make it to the end of this video, I hope to see you in the next story. I hope you're ready, because I am. Let's begin. You ever hear a voice on the other end of the phone that makes the air feel heavier? Not threatening. Not even loud. Just wrong. That's what Alexa remembered most about that night, the way the sound crawled into her ears and settled under her skin, as though it didn't belong in this world at all. And later, when she tried to tell people about it, they'd ask her what he said. But it wasn't about the words. It was about the way her body knew, before her mind did, that she was already in danger. Our story today begins in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind with trimmed hedges, motion sensor porch lights, and the faint smell of fireplaces on crisp autumn nights. Alexa Dunn was 15, with the kind of life people assume is safe. 2 parents who loved her, a decent school, friends to text at night. But safety, as Alexa was about to learn, is a thin layer of glass. One knock in the wrong place and it shatters. It had been just over a week since Kelly Winters vanished. Kelly wasn't just some classmate, she was Alexa's closest friend, the one who'd been over so many times she practically had her own toothbrush at Alexa's place. Kelly's disappearance was the kind that made headlines for 2 days, before the news cycle swallowed it whole and spat out other tragedies. But in their town, whispers lingered. Kelly had last been seen at home, alone, around 9 p.m. The front door was locked. The lights were still on. Her phone was found on the carpet by the couch. The police said there were no signs of forced entry. No fingerprints that didn't belong there. No broken locks. She had simply vanished. And now Alexa was alone. Her parents had left an hour ago for a business party across town. It wasn't supposed to be an overnight thing, but they'd hinted they might not be back until very late. Alexa had protested at first. She didn't like being alone in the house these days, but her mom had smiled and said, "You'll be fine. Just keep the doors locked." They didn't understand. No one really did. The house had that hollow quietness it always did when she was the only one in it. She kept the living room lamp on and the TV playing reruns just loud enough to pretend someone else was there. Her phone sat next to her on the couch, screen glowing with little notifications. Friends posting memes, group chats buzzing. She didn't respond to any of them. It was 8 p.m. exactly when her phone rang. The sound startled her enough that she jumped. The number was unknown. She almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. When she answered, there was a pause. Not the normal kind of pause where someone's waiting for you to speak first. This was measured. Like whoever was on the other end was savoring the moment before saying something they'd been waiting to say. "Alexa." The voice was male and smooth and almost warm. It made her skin prickle. "Kelly gave me your number." Her first thought was confusion. Kelly? Then the words hit her harder. "Kelly gave me your number." Who is this? Alexa's voice wavered more than she wanted it to. The man said slowly, each syllable deliberate, "What happened to Kelly is the same thing that's going to happen to you, Alexa." Her heart was already pounding when the line went dead. She stared at the phone. She didn't move for a full minute, just listening to the hum of the television and the sudden rush of her own breathing. It had to be a sick joke. Someone from school, maybe. But nobody would joke about Kelly. Nobody would. The living room suddenly felt smaller. She turned on another lamp. By 8:50, Alexa had almost convinced herself it had been a prank call. Her parents' security system was armed, the deadbolt on the front door was locked, and she was in the middle of sending her mom a casual, "all good here" text when the knock came. It was sharp. 3 raps. Alexa froze. The knock came from the front door, the same one she'd locked less than an hour ago. She walked toward it slowly, her socks whispering against the hardwood floor. She wasn't stupid. She checked the peephole before even thinking about touching the door handle. Nobody was there. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She backed away from the door, and that's when her phone rang again. Same unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but fear made her do it. Like if she didn't pick up, something worse would happen. The same voice. No introduction this time. Just 6 words. "I am coming for you now." Her mouth went dry. She dropped the phone onto the couch and lunged for the locks, checking each one twice, then rushing to the back door. The house was too big, too full of windows. That was when she heard it, the soft click of the back door handle being tried slowly. Every hair on her arm stood up. She grabbed the cordless landline phone from the kitchen wall and started to dial 911. Dead. No dial tone. The lights flickered once and went out. The whole house dropped into darkness so complete it felt solid. Her breathing was ragged now, fast and shallow, as her eyes strained against the dark. Then came the sound of glass shattering. Not from the back door. From the basement. Alexa's stomach twisted. She knew that sound. It was the tiny sharp crack of the small basement window being broken. Her father had told her that window was too small for anyone to fit through. He had been wrong. There were footsteps now. Not rushed, not scrambling, slow and measured, climbing the basement stairs. She had never been so aware of every creak in the house. Alexa's fingers trembled as she set the useless landline back into its cradle, the click of the plastic sounding unnaturally loud in the oppressive dark. Her eyes strained to catch the faintest outlines, the glow of the streetlight bleeding through the curtains, the square shadow of the coffee table, the silver glint of the kitchen sink faucet. Every sound was amplified in the stillness. The refrigerator's hum was gone. The ticking clock above the TV had fallen silent with the power outage. All that remained was the slow, deliberate thump of footsteps climbing the basement stairs. She couldn't tell if they were heavy or light. She just knew they were wrong. The cadence was uneven, as though whoever it was moved in a rhythm that didn't quite belong to a human gait. Sometimes 2 quick steps in succession, then a pause that lasted just a second too long. Alexa backed away from the kitchen and into the hallway that led toward the stairs to her bedroom. Her heart was hammering, her breath quick, but her mind was darting between possibilities: neighbor, burglar, or a crazy lunatic. Every theory was worse than the last. She reached the hallway closet, groped inside for the old wooden baseball bat her dad kept by the door. Her sweaty palms slipped against the smooth handle, but she held it tight. The basement door creaked. She didn't need to see it to know. It had been opened. Her phone, still on the couch in the living room, buzzed once, then again, as if reminding her it existed. She didn't dare cross the living room to get it. If she was quiet enough, maybe whoever it was would think she'd run outside. The footsteps moved into the kitchen now, slow, exploring. A scrape of metal against tile, silverware drawer. The sound of someone breathing, steady, deep, like they had all the time in the world. Alexa stepped backward up the staircase, careful to avoid the third step that always groaned under weight. She made it halfway up before her foot caught on the carpet edge and she stumbled, the thump echoing far too loud. The breathing in the kitchen stopped. For a second there was only silence. Then the voice came again, not from the kitchen but from the dark below, close enough to hear the dampness in his whisper. "Don't fucking run from me, Alexa." She bolted. Upstairs, she slammed into her bedroom, locked the door, and shoved her desk chair under the knob. The bat was shaking in her grip. She crouched by the bed, listening. Downstairs, something moved into the hallway. She heard the faint touch of fingers along the wallpaper, a dragging sound like nails or something sharper. Her mind screamed to call for help, but her phone was still downstairs. The old battery-powered radio her dad used during storms was in the hall closet, downstairs. She was trapped. Then came the knocking. Not on the front door this time. Not on the walls. On her bedroom door. 3 slow knocks. Alexa's throat went dry. "You shouldn't have answered the phone," the voice said, calm and almost sad. Her chest rose and fell in rapid bursts. She tightened her grip on the bat. She didn't know what she'd do if the door broke open, but she'd swing until she couldn't. Then the knocking stopped. She didn't hear footsteps retreating. She didn't hear anything at all. Minutes stretched like hours. When the sound returned, it wasn't at her door, it was under her. A scraping noise, muffled, coming from inside the walls or the crawl space beneath the floorboards. A faint, wet whisper. "She called for me first, Alexa. Kelly wanted to see." Alexa's blood went cold. The voice wasn't muffled by distance. It was inside her head. No, not just inside, around her, as though the air itself was speaking. She clamped her hands over her ears, but it didn't help. The whisper seeped in like damp through a wall. Then she heard another sound, her mother's voice. "Alexa?" It came from downstairs. "Honey, are you here?" Relief exploded in her chest. "Mom!" she screamed, ripping the chair away from the door and fumbling at the lock. She yanked the door open and raced down the stairs 2 at a time. The living room was empty. The voice from the kitchen, her mother's voice again, calm, warm, familiar. "Sweetheart, it's okay now. Come here." Alexa stopped halfway to the kitchen. She could see the edge of the counter from here, the faint outline of cabinets in the dark. But there was something else, something she couldn't see but could feel. The air beyond that threshold was wrong, thick and humming faintly. She didn't move. Her mother's voice broke into a chuckle. Not her mother's chuckle, but something just a little too low, a little too drawn out. "Clever girl," it murmured, the tone dropping to that same inhuman purr she'd heard on the phone. Kelly wasn't. Every instinct screamed at her to run, and she obeyed. She spun and darted toward the front door, fumbling with the locks in the dark. She had the deadbolt halfway undone when she felt the cold touch on the back of her neck. Not a hand, too cold, too thin. Like the press of something made of metal. She turned and saw nothing but the black outline of the hallway behind her. And yet the voice was so close it felt like it was in her mouth as well as her ears. "I told you I was coming." Her body moved before her mind caught up. She tore open the front door and bolted into the night air. The street lamps glowed weakly against the mist that had settled over the neighborhood. She ran barefoot across the driveway, every pebble and crack cutting into her feet, but she did not care. But as she turned toward the neighbor's house, she froze. The street was empty. No cars. No porch lights. No movement. The houses that should have been lit with late-night TV glow were dark, every single one. And there, halfway down the street, stood Kelly. She was barefoot too. Her hair hung damp and matted. Her eyes were wide and black, not the darkness of pupils but the entire eye, a gleaming void. She raised one hand slowly, beckoning Alexa toward her. Behind Alexa, in the doorway of her own house, the figure waited. Not moving, just watching. Alexa's lungs burned, but the cold air in her throat was nothing compared to the ice blooming in her chest as she stared at Kelly. The blackness in Kelly's eyes swallowed the weak glow of the street lamp above her, as though even light didn't dare touch her. Her beckoning hand twitched with slow, unnatural precision, a gesture that was both invitation and command. Alexa shook her head, backing away toward the middle of the street. "Kelly?" Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. Kelly's lips curved into a smile, but it was wrong, strained at the edges, too wide as if it hurt her face to do it. "You left me," she said, the words echoing in a way that made it impossible to tell if they were coming from Kelly's mouth or from inside Alexa's skull. From the doorway behind Alexa, the man finally moved. His outline was tall, impossibly thin, shoulders crooked as though his bones were bent in places they shouldn't be. The darkness seemed to cling to him, trailing from his body like smoke. Every step he took toward her sounded deliberate, as though each footfall was an act of patience. Alexa's mind screamed to run, but the street around her seemed to stretch in every direction. The neighbors' houses were too far now, their doors impossibly distant, the road beneath her feet feeling soft and unstable, like she was standing on something that was breathing. Kelly tilted her head. "Agatha wants you to come inside," she said softly. "It's so warm where she is. You'll never be alone again." "Agatha." The name slipped from Alexa's lips before she could stop it. The man's voice answered, and the name in his tone felt ancient, full of rot and longing. "Agatha Black. She came before the town, before the houses. She was here when all of this was still dirt and water. She takes what is hers." The streetlight above Alexa flickered, buzzing like an angry insect. When it came back on, Kelly was suddenly much closer, her bare feet silent against the asphalt. Alexa stumbled backward, the bat still clutched in her hand, though she no longer believed it would do anything. Kelly's smile twitched, her head jerking slightly as though pulled by invisible strings. Her voice deepened, layered with another, older one. Kelly came to her willingly. "But you must be brought." The man in the doorway took another step forward, and with it, the mist in the street thickened, curling around Alexa's legs. It was cold enough to bite into her skin. She swung the bat through it in a wild arc, but it sliced through nothing. No resistance, no sound. Then, from deep within the fog, Alexa heard something else, the sound of water dripping. It came in a slow, steady rhythm, too deliberate to be random. She glanced down and saw that the mist had darkened in places, forming black pools that rippled without a source. From those pools, pale, skeletal hands began to emerge. Small at first, then dozens, their skin stretched thin over bone, each one clawing toward her ankles. Alexa screamed and bolted toward the sidewalk, but the distance between her and safety was unnatural, stretching like the inside of a nightmare. Her breaths came in short, panicked bursts as she ran, her legs moving but never seeming to bring her closer to escape. Kelly's voice followed her, lilting and sing-song now. "Don't run, Lex. It only makes her hungry." The black pools rippled again and something rose from them. At first Alexa thought it was another figure, but as it straightened, she saw the truth. It was a woman, but her face was obscured by a curtain of dripping black hair. Her limbs were too long, her fingers ending in nails that gleamed like wet stone. The smell that rolled from her was damp earth and old, rotting leaves. "Agatha Black," Alexa whispered, her voice breaking. The woman's head lifted slightly, and though her face was hidden, Alexa felt the weight of eyes locking onto her. The air seemed to thicken, and every sound dulled except for the pounding of her own heart. Agatha's voice was like water running over stone, soft but unstoppable. "You were called the moment you answered." There is no closing the door now. Alexa staggered backward, but the mist curled around her waist like a hand pulling. She swung the bat wildly, screaming, but it connected with nothing. The street seemed to tilt, the black pools spreading until they lapped at her feet. Her legs were sinking, her skin burning with cold where the water touched her. From the edges of her vision, more figures emerged, others who had been taken. Some she recognized from news stories, missing posters. Their faces were pale, hollow-eyed, mouths slightly open as though caught in a constant gasp. They reached for her without urgency, their movements slow and dreamlike, as if certain she could not escape. Kelly stepped forward until she was just a few feet away. She crouched, her head tilting so her black eyes caught the faint light. "It's better if you stop fighting," she whispered. "She'll make the fear go away." The mist climbed higher, wrapping Alexa's chest, cold and crushing. Her vision began to blur, her strength draining as though the fog was pulling it from her. The man in the doorway had vanished, replaced by a second shape of Agatha, taller, darker, like a shadow peeled from the first. Both reached for her. In a final, desperate burst, Alexa shoved herself backward, tearing free from the mist enough to crash onto the pavement. Pain shot through her shoulder, but she scrambled to her feet and ran, not toward the neighbors but toward her own house. She didn't know why, only that she had to reach something inside. The front door yawned open, the darkness inside somehow more solid than the night outside. She stumbled through, slamming it shut behind her. Silence. When she turned, the living room was exactly as she'd left it. Lamps glowing, TV murmuring quietly, phone on the couch. The clock read 8:01 p.m. Alexa blinked, confusion settling in. Had any of it happened? Was she losing her mind? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She picked it up slowly, pressing it to her ear. Kelly's voice, soft and cold, "It's your turn now." The line went dead. And outside, from the basement, the footsteps began again. Let us know in the comments, would you have gone back to your home after breaking free?
Ready for spine-chilling tales that will haunt your thoughts? Subscribe to Forgotten Storyteller for eerie narrations, unsettling mysteries, and haunting stories you won't forget. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story, because some stories refuse to stay buried. Join us, if you dare.